Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video where we recap or we go over each of the major locations and some, minor locations we've seen so far in the Walking Dead television series from the very beginning up to the mid-season finale for The Walking Dead Season 8. And as usual, this was a viewer-requested topic. If you guys have any other topics you'd like to see me go ahead and cover, you can private message me through the channel. I'll take them into consideration, and we'll do lots of these kind of videos coming up. I definitely want to do this one because it was a really good suggestion. I feel like it's one we've never really done before. We've never really recapped or taken a look at all the different spots or locations that we've seen in The Walking Dead in our journey so far. And there's just been so many at this point up to the Season 8 mid-season finale that I thought it'd be fun to do today. So let's go ahead and go through them all. So we'll take it from the top. We'll start from the very first episode of the series, Days Gone By, The Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 1. So we'll start with King County, Georgia. So this is kind of the starting point for the whole show. This is where things get started for Rick, for Shane, for Lori. This was their hometown. This was the spot where everything started from. And you can actually go visit it in real life. They actually have a tourist location there for The Walking Dead because it's where, everybody's seen this. Like if you've seen The Walking Dead, you've seen the first episode. Everybody's seen that. You got to start from the top. So whether or not you've seen all the way up to the end of mid-season of Season 8 or you dropped off at some point, everybody has seen, at least the very beginning. So, of course, when we started there, we got to see Rick being shot during a prison escape alongside Shane. After that, we go to the Harrison Memorial Hospital, which is actually located in King County, Georgia. And this is kind of the Don't Open Dead Inside, a hospital you guys remember seeing, where just you got the bodies everywhere outside, and it's just waking up in a zombie apocalypse. So that's a pretty kind of infamous location, I want to say, another one where it's like right at the very beginning. King County Sheriff's Department, so where Deputy, of course, Rick Grimes and Shane Walsh worked, along with a few others, Leon Bassett and some of the others. Then we get to Morgan. So we spent some time at Morgan's place, which is cool, also in King County, or the place that he's staying before Rick goes ahead and heads out to find his family. We have Interstate 85, which is kind of Rick's part of his journey to get to Atlanta. He stops at the Sagard family farm, which was a place where we had a family who seemingly committed suicide. And then we have, of course, Atlanta, which is one of my all-time favorite locations for The Walking Dead. And as far as like this picture goes, I want to say if there's any picture that is kind of the most infamous for Walking Dead, I think this has got to be it right here. I mean, each season's pretty cool, the posters and stuff, but this one right here, Rick riding into Atlanta on horseback, is just very nostalgic, very cool, and definitely for me is like maybe the top, like one of my top favorite pictures for Walking Dead for sure. We have the Atlanta Survivor Camp. So this one was a few miles outside the city, but it was located near Atlanta, near a quarry. So this was kind of where they had their kind of main base set up with Shane, Lori, and the others for our small group of survivors when things were just getting going. Back to Atlanta, we had the Atlanta department store, which is funny. If you guys remember, there was the walker that used the rock to smash the window, which they've kind of strayed away from nowadays. They don't really do the smart walker thing anymore, using rocks, climbing ladders, stuff like that. But at that point they did, which was kind of cool. Then we have the Atlanta nursing home, if you guys remember, with the Vatos. And this one was actually shown in a deleted scene later on for Season 2, where we kind of find out in the deleted scene, which you could say is not really canon because it is deleted, but it still kind of gives you the information that the Vatos are dead. They were basically cleared out, and we're not sure exactly by who. It could have been like the governor, and that's how maybe he saved Merle. The group was in and around there or something, or it could have been somebody else entirely. It's kind of hard to say, but that was a cool location as well too, with a nice kind of twist in that one for Vatos, so that was something. Then there was the CDC, a Center for Disease Control, and close to the Season 1 finale here with Jenner and all of that. Another pretty cool location and a nice kind of change of pace for The Walking Dead. We don't really get to see locations like that too much anymore. But yeah, kind of a high-tech type of location and really cool. That's one of the best things about the first season, I think, was the environments. If you see like the shots with all the zombie bodies everywhere and that kind of thing, it really looked like a zombie apocalypse, whereas certain times of the series later on, it doesn't always kind of fit that, but certain ones of the first season, wow, really, really cool. Going to season 2, we get to the highway where we had the vehicle jam. If you guys remember, where get down under the cars, that kind of thing. What lies ahead. That was pretty cool, and I think they've actually used this filming location quite a few times now. Even recently in season 8, they've used this one like crazy. So you might not be able to tell. In terms of the series location, yeah, it's totally different. It's like Virginia versus Georgia. But yeah, whatever. It's kind of obvious that once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's one of those type of things. So anyway, so that's cool. And that was a great episode, man. The season 2 premiere, What Lies Ahead. We had a Southern Baptist church, which we got to see. Quite a few churches throughout the series, but this was one of them, if you guys remember. Some pretty cool zombies in there. Some kind of cleverly, you had like one zombie that was like wearing like a gown and stuff. It was just kind of cool. Kind of a cool spot. Then we had the Green Family Farm. So this one, kind of a location that some people might love, other people might hate, because this location, they spent quite a few episodes here, and sometimes it wasn't always the most exciting. You had certain episodes that weren't always the most action-packed at the farm, right? But it was a cool kind of location, and it was kind of sad to see the whole thing, burn down at the end beside the dying fire at the end of season 2, where it all comes kind of crashing down. But we did have also a flashback sequence where we got to see King County Elementary School with Carl and Lori, and yeah, so that was a cool flashback. We had unnamed high school, if you guys remember, with Shane and Otis, and kind of where they got kind of in and around there, so kind of trapped, and then they got out. We had Steve's Pharmacy, which is where we have Maggie and Glenn first go, like the first time they start kind of hanging out, I want to say, or they kind of go there together, and Maggie kind of gives it up pretty quickly. It's a zombie apocalypse. There's not much. You don't know how long people are going to survive for, so you might as well have fun, right? So there's a pharmacy, so that was a cool one. We had Wiltshire Estates, which was kind of a sad attempt at the comic book series version in the TV series, which was super quick. You had Shane and Andrea went there, who also got kind of freaky that was just that was kind of straying away from the comics quite a bit there. And then we also saw kind of another community later on, Shire Wilt. They kind of reversed it. Estates later with Noah in that. We have the Carriage Bar, which we got to see. It's like an old Western saloon type of bar, and we got to see Dave and Tony, and what happened there with Rick and Herschel, and it was Glenn, right? Glenn too. So that was pretty exciting for the second half of season 2. We had the Mert County, Georgia. So this was a location where you pretty much had 18 miles out, right? If you guys remember that one. And they kind of, got into Rick and Shane got into a little bit, had the kind of the fight there and that kind of thing at the plans and all that. So that was pretty cool. I liked 18 miles out, and then it was kind of back to the farm for the rest of that. Kind of wrapping up of close to the end of the season. And then we had Elders Mill Road, which is the road where they kind of ended off season 2. Going into season 3, we got our first snapshot in the season 2 finale, and then season 3 we got to see the actual prison. So the legendary prison, out of all the locations in the series, the prison actually might be my favorite. I think it's just a really cool location to put characters in a zombie apocalypse, because usually in real life you have people always trying to break out, trying to break out of the prison. In a zombie apocalypse, there's probably going to be nobody that would actually want to break in, but it's also one of the most secure type of facilities or locations you could probably get. And it was cool to see them there in season 3. So that's the West Georgia Correctional Facility, which was pretty cool. The different blocks and that kind of thing was neat. We had Sportsman Deer Cooler, which is a butcher shop where Andrea and Michonne take shelter and rest for a small period of time in the season 3 premiere. Then we get Woodbury. Oh man, there's a location that we don't really talk about too much these days. Woodbury, Georgia. Really cool. Located 52 miles, it says, southwest of Atlanta. Then we had Andrea and Michonne, who spent some time there. If you guys remember, Andrea kind of stayed, Michonne left. You had the governor and everybody there, Merle. Just a really cool location. Really loved to see that one a lot. That's one of our first kind of established communities we got to see in the zombie apocalypse, because prior to that, a lot of it was just kind of small groups. And then we got to see Woodbury, which was actually like a fully functional kind of a little community, which was cool. Cool location in Woodbury. We had some different various smaller locations, like a community clinic. We had the Woodbury Research Facility, which was with Milton. You guys remember Milton? That's that's a fun character. We don't really talk about nowadays because of course he was like a season character for season 3, but he was a fun character. He was a nice character, and I did like seeing Milton in the series. That was a cool kind of spot. It reminds me kind of maybe Day of the Dead or something like that, where they're kind of experimenting on the zombies and that, as Milton was doing. Then we have the governor's apartment, so the fish tanks, if you guys remember. Zombie heads in the fish tanks, so that was pretty cool. Penny and everything like that, the victims' heads and that, so that was pretty wicked. Then we had a National Guard camp, which was kind of the introductory sequence for the governor, which was a super badass introduction. I mean, you pretty much have these guys that are like military, they're armed, just heavily armed, and, the governor and the others take them out without much trouble at all. I mean, they just take the whole place out. It's just kind of like a temporary, I want to say, a camp for those guys, National Guard camp. It wasn't anything like too spectacular or anything too crazy. It was just kind of a spot where they were at. But it deserves mentioning as well, too, because that was a pretty sweet scene for the governor, and a great introductory scene, I want to say, for him and Merle and the others, and for us to get an idea of what they're really about. We had the Woodbury Arena, which was kind of cool, where they have, their kind of gladiator type of arena. Michonne got in there as well, too, and killed some zombies in that, so that was kind of fun. We had a zombie capture area for Woodbury, which was also kind of cool, the pits. And we also saw Martinez use the same kind of technique later on in season 4 with his own group that he sort of recreated after the fall of Woodbury. We had an unnamed daycare center, so if you guys remember, we had Daryl and Maggie. They went out scavenging for bottles and formula for Judith, so that was neat. We had some roadside stores where Glenn and Maggie find a location where they're looking for supplies for Judith, and then of course also ran into Merle, and then we're kind of brought back to Woodbury in that. We had a hermit's shack. So this shack is buried in a region of woodland area, Georgia. It's 3 miles from Woodbury and over 5 miles from West Georgia Correctional Facility, so the prison. We had Yellow Jacket Creek, which was kind of cool, is a body of water in Georgia, and we had Merle and talking about hooking some fish in that with Daryl, so that was kind of neat. We had Morgan's apartment. So Morgan's place that he had is an apartment claimed by Morgan. It is heavily armored and secured with spikes and several traps. So we did a throwback review recently for Clear, so you guys you know all about this one. Really cool. Love that location too. That was a cool kind of design for it, to have all the booby traps and everything everywhere. Really sweet. King County Cafe, where we had Carl and Michonne fighting the walkers to get a memento for Judith. So that's kind of cool. And then we had Verlin's Feed and Seed Company. And this one is a farming business in rural Georgia located near Woodbury. And also pretty close to the prison as well too. So this was the meeting spot, if you guys remember, for the governor and Rick when they actually sat down to kind of negotiate, which was pretty exciting. Nothing ended up happening, but it was pretty intense to actually see them. We had the Grantville Mill, which is where Andrea hid when the governor was going after her in Prey. That was an exciting episode, her being chased and that kind of thing. An unnamed motel. So this is where Merle and Michonne stumbled across, and you had some zombies that came out. Merle kind of saved everybody. I mean, he's the one who brought her there anyway. So that was that for that's it for season 3. Going to season 4. This is a cool one. If you guys remember this one, I remember how exciting it was to kind of see this, which is the Big Spot, which was a really cool location because you had the the zombies falling down through the roof and everything like that. Military outpost was set up there, and then it was abandoned. So we had a small group that kind of went there. If you guys remember, with Daryl and the others, Sasha, Tyrese, when they were fairly new, and that was just a really cool spot to start off the season with. Thought it was a neat little run that we got to see, and it was just cool. We had Clara's camp, where Rick kind of found himself as he was kind of just supposed to be kind of relaxing or just doing his thing and trying not to lose his mind anymore, stuff like that, kind of taking it easy for a little while. And he runs into to her, which is kind of cool. They had her kind of come back as a zombie later in Too Far Gone, and she kind of goes into the prison with all the others. But yeah, so that was kind of a trippy scene. Something that's very, like, you would expect to see that in a zombie apocalypse, characters like that are really deranged, really twisted. We had an unnamed neighborhood where this is 8 miles south of the prison, so it is a fair distance from the prison, where we had Carol and Rick, who ran into Sam, who's now the Penguin on on Gotham, which is really sweet. But if you guys remember when Rick kicked out Carol, so that's an old school one for what happened with Karen and David, so that's pretty cool. We had the Wayland Law Firm, which is where Carol took refuge, if you guys remember, following her banishment when she was banished by Rick. We had the Fort Valley State University, which is about 50 miles from the prison, which had some medical supplies that we have the group, including Bob, that went out to kind of try to get some stuff to cure the flu that was the outbreak at the prison. So that was pretty cool, and that was kind of like where Daryl was kind of leading that little mission in that. So that was kind of neat. We had an unnamed apartment building, and this is where Tara first came from. So this is for the Governor's episodes here in season 4. There was an apartment. You had David, Lily, Tara, and Megan Chomber, and they were living there when the governor kind of came through. We had Cesar Martinez's camp, which was a camp that was put together kind of by Martinez and Mitch and Pete, and we had the tank and everything like that there. So that was pretty cool, and it was about 30 survivors there as a neat little camping location. There was the river camp as well too, which there were some cool scenes in that one too with Pete and that and the governor and how he kind of took over the whole damn thing in almost no time. We had Joe and Joe Jr.'s barbecue shack. We have Michonne there, as in the episode after. So that was kind of neat, and it fits so well, right? If you look at after and you look at her and how she kind of found Rick, she found Carl afterwards. It really fits well later on for them to be in a relationship, just the way everything kind of went there. We had some locations and a lot of traveling this season because the group was so splintered, split up everywhere, getting ready to go into season 5. We had a lot of different train tracks that were kind of terminus. You had the kind of leading to terminus, so a lot of the group, walking down a lot of different places like this. We had my favorite episode of all time. No, not really. Still, we had golf course, which was pretty cool. It was like a country club. We had the Moonshine Shack. Oh God, this was so good. I mean, this was oh God, this is so bad. Funeral home, right? Which was actually, I did like the funeral home where Beth was kidnapped. At least that was exciting. I guess my favorite part of the whole sequence is when Beth was in trouble, right? So, so that's that. That's pretty cool. We had the Grove. That was a neat location. If you guys remember that with Lizzie and Mika. That was pretty neat. Carol, Tyrese. So, wow, it's crazy to think that out of all of them, the only one that's still alive is Carol. And then we go to Terminus, right? I mean, this location was huge. This was a cool one, because of course you have Gareth, you have the Hunters, you have the Cannibals, and it was a pretty big institution, I want to say, a lot bigger than it was in the comics, with the Hunters just kind of being an on-the-road, traveling around hunter group. Instead, the TV series, this is a change I almost never hear anybody complain about, which is Terminus. I think Terminus was an awesome location. It was really cool. It was a nice trap kind of idea, and it worked, at least for the start, until Carol showed up and decided to go, Rambo on everybody. But really cool spot to get us started with season 5. And of course, if you guys remember the ratings this time, they certainly reflected that. It was very exciting. Then we have another church, the Four Walls and a Roof. So this was a small church that was run by Father Gabriel before the outbreak, and it served as a base for Rick and the group for 2 nights after their escape from Terminus. So this is the one where he kind of locked, if you guys remember, he locked everybody out in that, and he was kind of, some regrets there for Gabriel. But that was an exciting location, and I loved the final confrontation between the Hunters and Rick's group. I thought it was a bit quick. I wanted to see a little bit more from them, but Rick and the others took them out without too much trouble. There was also a school around there, too, if you guys remember that one also. We had a grocery store where we had Abraham, his wife Ellen, his son, and his daughter found shelter after the outbreak. There was kind of like a flashback sequence of this one, if you guys remember this. And Eugene as well, kind of coming in there. So that was cool. There was an unnamed fire department, which was a former fire department in a small town near Atlanta. After the outbreak, it is assumed survivors found shelter in there. But after a lot of them got infected, the remaining survivors blocked the doors and left a fire truck while fighting more undead, and the fire truck was later taken by Abraham and his group while going to Washington, D.C. So that was kind of cool. I remember the fire hose from that one. That was neat. This one was just a great shot, I think. This was actually used, I think, in 999, the same kind of bridge. So Norman Reedus had like a couple projects going on, like the same location in Atlanta, but it just looks so cool. If you guys remember the van and that, and just kind of how that all sort of worked out and it falling off and everything. So it was a cool location for the bridge, and there was lots of little spots in Atlanta we got to see in and around at around this time. Hunter School, that's the school that we were thinking about. where we had actually Morgan go afterwards when he's kind of looking for Rick, or maybe just kind of wandering around looking for people, and eventually found the the new world's going to need Rick, and then eventually was able to find Rick, which was really cool. Grady Memorial Hospital, which is one that actually is seen in the background in season 2. Then they come back to it and they use it as a full location with the police and Dawn, Beth, and everything that happened there. You guys remember that? Some of you really liked this, this mid-season finale. Some of you hated it. Maybe even worse. Yeah, worse than the season 8. I remember a lot of flaming and people just being mad about this one during this time. But it was a cool spot. It was a cool location. It was different. We don't get to see locations like that all the time. So major cities like that I think are always cool to see whenever they can do that, because it's just a different type of environment. We don't get to see that often. Really cool, man. It's probably expensive to do. That's probably why. We have a FEMA site in Atlanta where the survivors were encouraged or taken by Atlanta police to be evacuated, only to be napalmed. So that was really brutal. Oh man, that's yeah. For some reason, every time they go into Atlanta, we always get to see great visuals and some really cool environments and stuff like that. The Shire Wilt Estates that I mentioned earlier on. So this is kind of like the remix, I want to say, of Wiltshire, where they kind of go into it and we see kind of the wolves had destroyed the place. It was overrun by walkers, and then you had was Noah's old home and Tyrese's final kind of location for the series. Which was very sad. The season 5 mid-season premiere, one of the saddest episodes in the whole damn series, I want to say, when Noah's little brother, Ninja Zombie, comes out and gets him out of nowhere, dead end. Then we have an unnamed barn. So if you guys remember, they kind of stayed there. They ran into Aaron, and then they headed towards the Alexandria safe zone. We had Washington, D.C., which is where they were going to go, and then, eventually they kind of figured out that what Eugene was saying wasn't true, and that there was really, kind of no reason to continue there. Instead, they gave Alexandria a shot, and that brings us to the Alexandria safe zone, which is, of course, another super important location in the series. It's been there already a few seasons now. If you think about season 5, its first appearance, and still going on strong now. Of course, it's going to need to be rebuilt because it's kind of been, blown down and everything, and fire and explosives, grenades, and what have you. So yeah, they're going to have to rebuild it. But it's based on the comics. It's long-term location. It's going to be there for probably longer than any other. And you compare it to even the prison. The prison was a cool home for the group, but Alexandria certainly, I would say, is a lot nicer, or at least it was, prior to this mid-season finale. So really cool spot, and it was really exciting to see when we first kind of got there. I want to say at this point now, it probably needs some remodeling and just a change up, because it's kind of played out at this point. But there's the watchtower outside of Alexandria that we got to see with the wolves and that, and very exciting No Way Out, how it kind of fell down and broke in the barrier, which was really cool. And they had to all, get in the houses and everything. There was the Noah run spot where he got stuck in the revolving doors thanks to Nicholas, which was really, oh man, that was a really brutal, really brutal one. And oh god, that's one. I think Noah. I think in my top 10, I did a top 10 most brutal deaths in the series. I think Noah's was it the highest? It was one of the highest for sure. And man, it's like both. And Glenn had a really bad one afterwards too. So it's like, damn it, they all did. Everybody went on that run. It's oh man, that's bad stuff. Except Tara, right? So Alexandria's infirmary, which is another kind of cool little spot, in Alexandria. Del Arno Foods. If you guys remember this one, so this is with Daryl and Aaron, and then the rescue by Morgan, which is really cool. So that's when Morgan finally kind of reaches the others, and then comes back in the season 5 finale, which is Conquer, I believe. I'm going on the top of my head here. Conquer. Then we go into season 6. You guys know my favorite season. We have the Quarry with just a super ton of zombies that are kind of being blocked by trucks. But eventually, they're able to kind of get out, and we see the trying to lead this huge, one away from Alexandria before it just absolutely, because if that many walkers came to Alexandria, there'd be no way. I don't think they'd be able to they'd have to, climb over the walls or something, or they'd all die. Eastman's Cabin in the Woods from the flashback sequence. No word on exactly where this was located here. You could probably say it's somewhere along the way between, King County and where they were, with the like Terminus and the Gabriel's Church and the other spots there, somewhere in there, but we can't say exactly where it was. But it's Eastman's, cabin, and it was a cool spot for Morgan and good spot for a flashback. We have the AA Patrick Fuel Company Depot, which is where Daryl runs into first Dwight and Sherry in the burnt forest. So if you guys remember that one, that was a cool kind of spot. I thought the forest had a really dark and really cool look to it. If that's anything to get us kind of started to represent the Saviors to start, is kind of neat. We have Alexandria's church, which of course Gabriel has used quite a few times. Rick has as well. We have the Hilltop. So this is a big one as well too. The Hilltop colony getting started in the TV series, and that was cool to see. And there's the Barrington House, in the center there, surrounded by all the kind of hilltop log walls and everything. So pretty cool, different kind of spot that it's got its own look for sure. We've got the communication relay Saviors outpost here, which is pretty damn secure. The Saviors do pick some secure locations. A lot of times they pick, like, be it a factory or building or something like that, which is pretty smart because it's hard for zombies to get in, but it's also hard for people to attack as well too, right? So that's one, and we got to see pretty exciting one there with Rick and the others kind of attacking. We had the Slaughterhouse Saviors Outpost. So this was used to hold, this was by Paula, who was, man, there was a lot of Saviors, right? If you think about all the Saviors, man, so many, to hold Maggie and Carol, even though, of course, it does not work out for her. We had the Bullet Factory. So a factory used by Eugene to produce bullets, even though we never really got to see that. I'm still expecting them to go back to that location at some point here. Negan's kind of mentioned it. We'll have to see what Eugene does in that. We had some more railroad tracks with Dwight and the others as they ran into. These are totally different tracks from before or way far away, obviously, from where they were at around the terminus time. In and closer to Virginia there. But yeah, this was an exciting standoff with Denise and all the others and what happened with that. Eugene in there, so that's pretty cool. It was a good one. Then we had the this Osil Public Library, which is a few hours' drive from Alexandria, used by a small group of survivors. The Saviors were extorting the group, and the survivors fought back. The Saviors killed the group, hanging one of them from a bridge with a chain. Carol and Morgan take refuge in the library for a short time. Then we have the Saviors Roadblock, which is kind of where they would set up. There was a number of them, though, in and around. We've seen them a few times. The part where you have Negan and Rick, they go for a drive. You got the fog and everything, and Rick has kind of a close call. Then we have the Field in the Woods. This one's kind of infamous. It's not really like, it's just kind of like I would say like a random spot somewhere between Alexandria and the Hilltop, and this is where the Season 7 premiere takes place, the Season 6 finale. Brutal one there, absolutely, man. I mean, just look at that shot. This is a crazy picture, right, to see that, but that's got to be one of the most memorable locations in the whole series, even though really it's just a patch of, like some gravel and trees in that, like a wooded type area. But I mean, that's one that definitely we will never forget because of how crazy that premiere was. We have a lonely house, a house in the woods. Carol takes shelter in this house after leaving the kingdom, so kind of Carol's wants to be alone type of place. Then we have the kingdom itself, so pretty cool. When the kingdom first was shown in the series, we had the school's theater, of course, with Ezekiel and Shiva and everything. So which at this point their group has been really drastically reduced. The kingdom is not what it once was, but it's it's still there. The location itself is there, and the people, a lot of them have been killed, but some of the more prominent ones are still alive. We have the Kingdom Saviors drop-off spot, which was kind of like I want to say like a parking lot or something like this, in between most likely the kingdom and Gavin's outpost, which we get to see more of in season 8. We have the Sanctuary, so Negan's home territory, a factory ruled by Negan. It is the home of the Saviors. Daryl was made a prisoner inside the Sanctuary before escaping. It has a fence with chained zombies around to keep it secure. And then, of course, as well, too, we got to see Eugene use the molten metal to, make super zombies, I suppose. But Rick and the others are able to get in anyway in Season 8 and really attack the place. But a very secure location, a very cool location, and one of the best villain locations in the series, if not the best. Woodbury was awesome, too, though. Unnamed Bridge, somewhere near the ocean side, if you guys remember, with Heath and Tara, where they got separated, and we'll have to see when Heath will return. I do expect to see him return either later this year or maybe next season, but we did kind of get confirmation that Heath will be back. We had the Atlantic coast, which was also a different location than what we're used to, kind of the ocean side, so that was kind of cool. But it's kind of a dark and dreary type of place in that. So it's what it is. Cindy and all the others, and Natanya, the ocean side itself, the kind of cabins they had there and everything like that. Their spot to kind of hide out from the Saviors and just survive it out. Leslie Williams Stanton's houseboat. So we had a houseboat in there, and I think we can can assume at this point that Leslie's probably dead. We probably won't see him again in the series, but for a while there, a lot of people thought he was like the person with the boots who ended up being, so far as we can tell, the Jadis, the leader of the Junkyard Group. We had an unnamed highway, which again, this highway, you know, so TNT trap placed by Fat Joey on their way to kind of swing the zombies in a different location in that. And we did get to see some kind of cool, road scenes with that, with Rick and Michonne in that. Junkyard Group, Junkyard Home, actual Junkyard. Junkyard, it's just a junkyard. Scrap place. So again, I think it's a cool location. A lot of people hate the Junkyard Group though, but it's it's a junkyard. It's what it is. It's what you'd expect. It's kind of cartoony. It's kind of Garbage Pail Kids, 80s type of thing. But I kind of like it. It's different. It's different from all the other locations. It certainly looks different. So that's for sure. We had Dwight's former house where we got to see Dwight and Sherry, the memories in that for him. And I'm wondering if Sherry's actually gone back there after. We'll have to see when Sherry's going to come back in the series. Shouldn't be too far off now. Probably within the next year. The Saviors Golf Course. So a field in the woods being used by the Saviors as a golf course. We had an overrun carnival, which was pretty cool. That was a unique spot where Rick and Michonne spent some time, just kind of doing their thing, getting some supplies. That kind of deal was kind of cool. We had an unnamed factory, which is near the sanctuary, which you would think that you would think that it would be near, just because it's based on the type of building it is, where you had Sasha and Rosita that were kind of scoping the place out and scoping. So almost scoping Negan, but at the last minute, not being able to get the shot or not being willing to kill other people in order to get the shot, trying to go in and then getting caught and all that stuff that happened in the season 7 finale. Then we had Shepherd Office Plaza, which is an outpost that was led by Simon. This outpost was one of the locations in the battle of All Out War this half season, in season 8. So that was a pretty cool spot. I thought it was kind of neat, and it was exciting to see the fight and how that went down there with Aaron and the others, Eric and everybody. So that was a cool spot. And then you had also, of course, Morales in there, which was sweet. Who's now a savior. So that was a cool spot. One of the only new spots for season 8, because we haven't seen that many so far. But that was a really cool one. And then we had the chemical plant outpost that was Gavin's with the heavy guns that were taken to that spot, and the kind of massacre that happened with the Kingdom after they thought they'd won, and just before they knew it. Can't run fast enough to outrun those 50 cals, get mowed down. So that brings us up to pretty much current date. That's pretty much all the locations there's obviously going to be others in between there, guys. We're talking about 8.5 seasons, over 100 episodes of a show, so there's more than just these. But these are some of the most prominent ones, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of recap and go over all the different spots, give our thoughts on them. Some of my favorites personally, the prison is one that I always hold dear to my heart. Atlanta, Rick riding in on horseback the very first time, another really cool one. The Sanctuary, really cool. Terminus, another great one. Alexandria, so some really great spots throughout the series. Let me know in the comments below, what were your guys' favorite spots to see in the series? What were your favorite environments to see? Did you like Atlanta? Did you like Woodbury? Did you like, any of the more recent ones, the Outposts or Kingdom? Or what are your favorite locations in the zombie apocalypse, guys? Write them in the comments below. And send me some messages, questions, that kind of thing. And I'll have another video, guys, for you again soon. So if you like the video, please thumb it up. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to favorite. Check out one of these other videos here if you guys haven't seen any of these yet. And if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it. You can do it for lots more Walking Dead content. You can subscribe at the bottom. That's it for this one. I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, this is Trev, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. I'll see you soon. Well, I hope you're wearing your subscribing pants.
What?
Your subscribing pants. Because you're going to subscribe to this channel wearing those pants.